Hi, my name is Stephen Rafferty, and you're watching / listening to These Are Questions. This is the interview show where I ask people questions about things, life, and such not. And today we're here in this beautiful studio as I'm interviewing various guests for season 8 of the show. And today I am privileged to be with an amazing artist, an incredible artist who I've got the awesomeness to talk to in today's interview session. I please just welcome the one and only Nate Dee.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for being a part of These Are Questions. I incredibly appreciate the opportunity to allow myself to interview you on this show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Likewise, I hope so too. I think it will. These are fun. These are questions. So I want to respect your time, so we're going to get right into our interview itself. Nate, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. It's going to be based around your career and aspirations, along with a mixture of questions that are borderline idiotic and, well, randomly stupid.
Okay.
Do you accept those terms?
I accept the terms.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Nate, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Internet, are you ready? Gonna take that as a yes. It's been 8 seasons. I'm assuming they're ready by now.
Yeah.
With that, let's begin our interview. So, like I said, thank you so much for being a part of These Are Questions. I really do appreciate it. We've met very recently, and I just was awestruck with your art pieces and what you do for the community here in South Florida and specifically in Miami. I just want to allow you to introduce yourself formally to our viewers and listeners watching / listening to this episode. And I just want to ask how you got into the arts, just like your story.
Okay. So the way I got into the arts, my introduction was as a child. I had a babysitter. He watched me and my sisters. I'm one of 4 siblings. Okay. I'm the oldest. And he was a good family friend. Yeah. And my parents, whenever they needed a babysitter, they would drop us off at the friend's house and they would have their son watch us. At that time, he was actually an illustrator for the local newspaper. Mm-hmm. So while we were at their house, like, we'd be watching TV and then he'd be in the dining room drawing and sketching articles or illustrating images for articles for the newspaper. Mm-hmm. So the first time I saw that, I was amazed at it. For me, it was like the first time seeing magic, right? Yeah. So it was him starting out with a white piece of paper, and then within a matter of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, he's creating whole worlds, creating people, details that it was just awe-inspiring. So it got to the point where I would look forward to when we would have to get babysat by him, because my sisters would be watching TV and I'd be sitting at the table just watching him draw like the entire time. Mm-hmm. So it was amazing.
When a little inspiration just led to all these creative works, and just, man, you've done so much. And like, I can only describe it so much, but like, I'm gonna let the picture speak for itself. I've had the privilege to take some photography shots of some of your finished pieces and just doing your artworks, and I want to put it on the episode screen as viewers are watching this episode. But it's just incredible pieces there, incredible works.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And like, you've done a lot of pieces with different buildings and murals and different works there, and I was researching your website and your likeness and what you do. You define yourself as kind of a street artist. I wanted to get more into that kind of terminology, and like, how do you truly define that terminology of being a street artist and working on different forms of murals and buildings and just getting your art displayed in that kind of junction?
So yeah, I do call myself a street artist. Now I lean more towards the title of muralist. Okay. But it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. I think that at one point, like the styles, the art, the work, it's all the same. Mm-hmm. Because of society, the names and the titles and the way we label it changes, right? Sure. So like, initially my introduction to art was like a style of art called lowbrow. And they called it that for a lot of the 90s. And then after that, they started calling them pop surrealists. And after that, the ones who decide they want to do it outside on the streets, they started calling them street artists, right? So it's all the same thing. With me, my goal when I do these walls is kind of to have a conversation with the general public. Mm-hmm. Since I'm creating work that's on the street and in the public, I want it to be relevant to the people who have to live with it and see it from day to day. And that's kind of my goal when I'm creating the artwork. And that's kind of what drives me to do the work. And just to try to do it as many places as possible. It's just a passion.
And I can clearly see it in the works that you've been working on over the years. And it's funny, as I learn more and more about yourself, I'm walking through, like, let's say the streets of Wynwood, and I see like, oh, this is an Nate Dee piece. I'm like, oh, this piece here. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So like, you have such a lasting impact towards not just the South Florida community, but different diverse communities, and what you're displaying and what you're putting with your pieces. So it definitely stands out in that regard. And as I was doing more and more of your research, I saw that you have various series of artwork, specifically your mask and your quote series.
Yes.
And I wanted to go a little bit more into that and talk about like the comparisons and the contrasts between those two series, and like how were the reasonings for the creations of those series came about.
Okay. So you know the saying, you can't run until you walk, right? So
Yes.
it's like I ended up settling, and most of my career I've been doing the mask series, but I could have never gotten to the mask series until I started doing the quote series. So initially, just like any other artist, when you're starting to figure things out, and like my introduction to painting and the decision to create paintings and start doing paintings was when I was in college. I had a professor at FIU, Florida International University, and she introduced us to work by the pop surrealists, and it was work that I could relate to. It wasn't like this old world Renaissance looking, very traditional work. So that's what made me fall in love with it. And with that being said, it was the first time I saw artwork by artists that weren't that much older than me. They were like maybe 10 years older than me, 15 years older than me at that time. And they were doing work that I just loved the way they were using colors. I loved the imagery that they were using. A lot of it was coming from the old sci-fi 50s, 60s movies and the stuff that I would see on Saturday mornings running on reruns on TV, right? And things like that. So with that being said, one of the things that I used to always do in my black book is I used to write down quotes. It'd be either from books I was reading. If someone said a quote and I was like, that's a really cool sounding quote, I would write it down. If it's a song I'm listening to and there's a part of the song that I really like, I'd write it down. And then I would start creating paintings based around that. So I was doing that for like maybe 2 or 3 years. Fell in love with it, trying to push as much as I could with that. And then one day I read something about a man. It was his memoirs. It was like in a book of short stories, and he was talking about growing up during, I think it was World War II, and he was a child at the time, and he was in Europe, and he was talking about how they had to train in elementary school for the threat of air raids, like the Germans coming in and dropping bombs on the city. So what they had to do is they had to teach the kids how to put on gas masks. So the masks that they would give the kids refused to wear them because they were afraid of the masks. So then they started making the masks look like animals, and they started making them look like cartoon characters and stuff like that. But some kids will wear it, but rather than it being one of those blanketed like acceptances from like all the kids, some of the kids were even more afraid of those than the traditional looking mask. So I thought that was funny. It was interesting, and I did a painting of a woman wearing a rabbit mask. And then from there, while I was doing research around that, I found out that Disney actually was playing around with the project of dropping Mickey Mouse looking gas masks. If you do a search online, you'll find these really old school weird gas masks that look like Mickey Mouse's face.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it ever went to market aside from a few different like prototypes or like concepts, but there's images out there for it. So with that, I did that piece. I fell in love with the way the piece came out. Just technically and then thematically too, right? So from there, I just decided, all right, this is something interesting, and I think I could do a long series of paintings just exploring the ideas of masks. Now we're at the point where the masks kind of represent power. The person wearing the mask is tapping into the power that the mask represents, and usually the masks are animal masks, and we as people give animals different meanings, so that's what frames the meaning behind the paintings.
Very interesting on there. That's a very unique perspective of how you consider with that, knowing with the research and history that you reviewed on there. And I learned just quite a bit on there just from hearing from that perspective. So thanks for providing it on there. Now I gotta go get my Mickey gas mask at some point in time. I probably get on Amazon. I don't know.
Listen, one of my dreams is to go to one of these like antique auction road shows or something like that, and hopefully run across one of these things and buy one, because I would love to own it. Like,
Yeah,
I know that they're out there. There might be only like 15 of them, but I would love to have one.
I mean, it's historical memorabilia and just like like a piece of history. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure I can't afford it, but I mean, it would be awesome to have one.
Never know. Never say never. These are questions have formed, and a lot of things have happened from guests being a part of the show, and things have happened after. So never say never. I'll just say that.
If someone has one, hit me up.
So, I want to ask you, and kind of to switch gears from Mickey Mouse to a different subject matter. I want to ask Nate, would you ever want to go to space, land on the moon, and maybe create your own painting on the moon?
No. I don't know. I feel like there's so many things going wrong. Right now, we can't even get a plane and fly to Chicago without it flipping upside down, right? So I don't know. I think that's one of those things where it works in theory, but I don't know if it works in practice.
Okay.
There would be so much that would be involved in trying to go to the moon and creating a painting on the moon. Like, how are you going to get the painting up there? Like, how long do you have to create the painting before you run out of oxygen, right?
That's true.
What are the light conditions, right? This is me being a nerd now.
There's no light conditions.
Exactly. I think that it would be just a series of headaches and a comedy of errors. So I don't know if I would ever want to do that.
Maybe you could fly up and maybe have everything secure and safe. And I hope as future things get more and more secure and safe, you can go up, maybe get like a Sharpie and just like draw like a little stick figure on the moon, and maybe we can get away with that.
I think that might work.
Take a little picture.
Yeah, find the most simple way of doing it. But I don't know about creating a full painting though. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. That's why I ask these questions. They're important for a reason. They're important. Let me ask you on this one. Do you have a beach bungalow?
No.
Do you want one?
Yeah, I think that would be cool. Like everyone. So when I first was in college, undergrad, I was the kid who like was a screw up in high school. Like I did just enough work to pass, but not enough work where I'd get scholarships. Like I wasn't failing by any means. I was middle of the road. I used to sit there and figure out, all right, what do I have to do to get a C? All right, I'll get the C, because that means I can have a lot of fun and do minimal work to do that. So that being said, when I went to college, I started out at the community college and then went to university. So in community college, I knew a bunch of kids who were just kids who came here from other states who like they weren't really serious about life, but their parents wanted to just give them money and hang out.
Yeah.
And most of them were beach bums. And I used to have fun hanging out with them, So I don't know. I might get one of those and just tap into like just living on the beach and making art and swimming in the ocean and having an old dog with 3 legs, And I don't know. That's one of those things, how like everyone has that little they muse about certain things that are kind of ridiculous. Like I had a friend who sold everything because he wanted to live in a van, and he did it for a year until van life hit him, and he's like, this isn't for me. But I think that's one of those things where it's like, that'd be cool if I was like a beach bum living in a bungalow, making art and swimming in the ocean every morning.
That sounds pretty dope to me. That's not bad.
I know, right?
Hey, never say never again. Just saying.
I think I would do that. If I did do that, it would have to be down here in Florida, obviously. Probably in Broward. Like, if it was possible, I love Dania Beach.
Okay.
I'm sure you can't put anything on Dania Beach, but if everything worked right, I would love to do it over there by the pier. There's a pier that's over there in Dania.
Yeah, you could do it by Dania Pier and like the Nate's bungalow.
Yeah, Nate's bungalow. Yes.
A little signage on there.
Exactly. I'll charge people to hang out. I don't know.
That's how you make your business.
Yeah. Sell them beer while they're hanging out at the beach or something.
And
fishing on the pier.
Fishing on the pier. There you go. And another beach staple that a lot of patrons go in, let's say Fort Lauderdale area as an example, is a place called Las Patas Hoagies. Have you ever been to that place, and have you had a Las Patas hoagie before?
So I've had a Las Patas hoagie.
Okay.
I didn't know they had one on Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the one I know of is in Davie.
That's okay. So, that's a one that's there. That's a go-to.
Yeah.
But there's one on Bayview Drive. And listen, we're not sponsored by Las Patas. We're not sponsored by them. But I will talk about their sandwiches. They're great.
Yes.
They have one down in Bayview Drive that's right off if you're going on A1A going to Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Wow. Now I gotta go there. I didn't realize that. So I remember I used to have a friend. His name's Joey.
Okay.
And we used to argue about the best subs and hoagies, right? And I used to say there was this place in North Lauderdale called Busy Bee. and you spend like $3 and they'll give you a 4-pound hoagie. You know, it was like a heavy sandwich. Like it would take you all day to eat the whole thing. You'd eat like maybe a quarter of it, be good till it's like time for lunch, eat the other quarter, and then you still have a whole half. So I remember we used to argue about which one's better, and then finally I went into Los Espadas and I was like, yo, this is a game changer. Like they're legit, super legit.
Ooh, okay. And I know they are. I've had their sandwiches like crazy, and it's been awesome there. So I'm glad you had one. I'm glad you've had the joy of having them with Spanish hoagie. So that's good.
Yes.
That's good. And like I said, we're not sponsored. I have no problem supporting just good. So but we're not sponsored.
My life was affected by it.
Quotation right there.
Yeah.
Speaking of life, let me ask you: could you transcend time?
If I could, I would have to do the future. I don't know if I want to do the past. There's too much drama in the past. But I would love to do the future and see what the future looks like.
Okay. And you know what? That's a great segue to my actual serious question on here. Where do you want to take your art moving to the future?
Moving to the future? I don't know. Like, really, my goal is just to, like, extend myself and create art form in ways and on platforms that I'm not sure about or I'm not used to.
Okay.
Because I want to be out there in a variety of ways, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I got into the murals. Like for a long time, I got offered to do murals and I never wanted to do them because I was nervous about it. Until finally I did one and I was like, oh, I love this. This is amazing, you know? But before that, I'm a trained studio artist. I only did canvas work, you know? So I think in the future, just to have an art and whatever's popular at that time and whatever's the new thing that people are creating art in. Like, so when people were doing NFTs, I was excited to jump on that. You know, when it got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm loving doing this canvas stuff. I'm loving doing the walls. Now let's start seeing what we can do with like some found objects, or now let's see what we can do with 3D. So that's what I'm currently working in now, is like trying to see what iterations I could do of my art in different formats and different materials.
Ooh, I like that a lot. You can have like a showcase exhibition with like your different art pieces, but with different styles, you know,
Yes.
like 3D art here, mirror art here, different stuff. Like, oh, that's
Yes, but it's all me, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it all
yeah.
like that's what connects. It's me, and it all kind of looks visually like they're connected.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that would be dope.
You can get Nate connected with D.
I don't know. Someone wants to talk trash might flip that.
No, you ain't nobody talking trash here on this question, especially to you. That ain't happening.
You know, but definitely I like something like that. Nate connected. I don't know. That's interesting. That's interesting though.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Hey,
I like that.
Like I said, things have happened here on These Are Questions.
Yeah.
Performers and artists have come up with ideas, and never know. Just saying. You know, give me the credit later.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what's a great artistic piece of advice for aspiring artists that want to pursue the arts, especially be a cultural impact for their prospective communities?
I think one thing, aside from, you know, just pushing yourself and trying to be a better artist, is also be known as someone who's dependable, right? So like a lot of times where I've had the opportunity to co-curate or give suggestions when I'm involved in a project or an event and they're looking for other artists, and they've come to me like, do you know anyone else who we could reach out to? Because we want some more artists in the show. We're looking for a female artist. We're looking for a Latin American artist. We're like, I've been asked like, do you know, and it'll be random questions, do you know a Jewish artist that does 3D art only in wood about rabbits? You know, I've gotten really specific stuff like that. But there's always chances to like put other people on. And there's nothing worse than when you know someone who's really good, who's really talented, but they've developed a reputation for not being trustworthy or dependable. So I've gone to these same people who say, yes, who'll ask me, I'll say, yes, I have this artist. They're like, hold on, is it this person known for this? Yeah, no, let's not use them. Give me someone else, you know? So I think, and another thing, circling back to that, I remember early on when I started working for people and working with people for the first time, a lot of them were like, it's so easy working with you. You're like, usually I deal with artists and it's a headache. You tell me you're going to show up at this time, you show up at that time. You tell me you're going to do something by this date, you know? So I think just being known for someone who's dependable will get you so far. And it'll also get those same people, because it was such a good experience, they're going to tell other people, work with him. Mm-hmm. Call that person, call her, call him, and come back. Hey, I got another project. It was so good last time. Can't wait for us to work again. How do you like doing this? So yeah, be dependable.
Simple advice, but it's honestly the best advice, to be honest, because you could be the greatest talent in the world, but if you don't have that dependability, forget it. It ain't happening. I've seen it. You've seen it, and it's all about that reputation. It's incredibly important because it's all word of mouth. It really is. It really is.
It is. Mm-hmm. It's word of mouth, and it's relationships, and how you're viewed, the perception, people's perception of you, whether it's professional wise, whether it's talent wise, but it's all of those things.
100%, Nate. I couldn't agree any more further with that. This has been a great interview, Nate, and I really do appreciate your time interviewing with me on These Are Questions. I just have one more question to ask you here on the show. Just one more question, and it is painting related, but it's specifically about like live painting. Okay. I want to ask you, if you were able to paint a live painting of any public figure, historical or modern, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a hard one. Mm-hmm. That's a hard one.
No pressure.
For me, I'm always about teachable moments and always about trying to teach people something about our culture or the history of America that they didn't know. And it might be the founder of Chicago. And the only reason why is because a lot of people don't realize the person that my family's Caribbean. So let me first say that. My dad's from Haiti. So the founder of Chicago was a Haitian man, and people don't know that. So there's actually, I think a few years back, they did a statue, a bust of him on one of their major bridges. But I remember when I first went out there to look for it, I was like, what? It's only like this big. I was like, it needs to be bigger. He's the founder of the city. So I think that it would probably be that.
That would be really
His
cool.
name's Dusable. So it's spelled Dusable. Mm-hmm. And he created the outpost, and then he's the one who founded the land that eventually turned into Chicago. Because before that, there was nothing there.
I didn't know that either, honestly. Yeah. I did not know that. And as someone that is also Haitian, I did not legit know that. Yes, that should be way more celebrated there. That's pretty good.
Yes, he was mixed. But yes. He was half black, half white.
We're everywhere.
Yes,
honestly, we are everywhere.
We're in the fabric of this country. People don't realize it, though, But,
Hey, we show up when we need to show up when we need to.
Exactly.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate that answer. And Nate, I really appreciate our interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of These Are Questions. I want to just give you the floor/internet/camera/floor/internet. I said that, I said it like that. Anything you want to talk about, anything you want to disclose, anything you want to promote, the floor is yours. Feel free to look at our cameras over here and go for it.
Nothing specifically now. I'm working on some projects, but contracts haven't been signed, so I can't talk about them.
No, please don't.
But if you want to stay in the know and know what I'm doing and know what I have coming up, then you could find me on Instagram, Miami Nate on Instagram.
Okay. And I will put Nate's information on Instagram and all of his description information, his website, all on the description down below for our viewers watching here on These Are Questions on YouTube.com for the video version and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast for the audio version of the show. We appreciate you watching and listening to These Are Questions throughout all of the seasons within seasons 1 to season 8 as you're listening/watching right now. And with that, all I just have to say is that you have been watching/listening to These Are Questions. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.